Advocates for undocumented workers block the gates and try to stop a deportation. They don't realize border agents have already moved a Montreal woman through a rear fence and put her on a plane back to Guatemala.
Elle est déjà quittée en avion.
Carrying out deportations is one of the duties of CBSA. But in this case, Lucy Granados was still injured from what she says happened weeks earlier during her arrest at her apartment.
I heard a male voice saying, "Madame, Madame, Madame," and then the line went dead.
Mary Foster got a call from Granados the morning 4 border officers arrived.
She was grabbed by the back of the neck. Her arm was twisted behind her back. She was slammed into the table and then onto the floor.
Reached in Guatemala, Granados says nearly a year later, she still only has partial use of her left arm. They grabbed me like an animal, she says. I don't know why they treated me like that.
Sadly,
Montreal doctor Nazila Betash examined Granados' medical file.
she had a traumatic injury probably during the time of the arrest, which basically damaged the nerves in her cervical spine and subsequently caused her arm to become paralyzed.
At least one officer later claimed in internal reports some force was necessary. Who's right? Well, the CBSA gets to decide that because it's the only major law enforcement body in Canada that still investigates itself. There is no outside oversight. Now, CBC News has obtained documents through an access to information request that provides a rare glimpse at just how often the agency is investigating its own. Between January of 2016 and July of last year, CBSA investigated 1,200 allegations of misconduct against its own staff. Alleged offenses include neglect of duty, criminal association, and excessive use of force. Some specifics alleged in the data: smuggling, accessing confidential information on an ex-girlfriend, even an employee with a hit list of colleagues who'd crossed him.
We don't know if anybody was disciplined, if anybody was fired.
No.
We showed the list to Toronto immigration lawyer Joel Sandelot.
I hear accounts from clients on a regular basis about treatment at the hands of CBSA officers.
But why do you believe outside oversight is necessary?
It is difficult for me to imagine another kind of agency in Canada that operates using firearms with the authority to arrest and detain individuals, has simply no way to be challenged or questioned in a public way about the conduct that they've engaged in.
Better civilian oversight of the
For the past 3 years, the federal government has been promising to bring in oversight.
There are some anomalies here in the system that we have to correct.
Les droits humains.
Granados and her supporters aren't waiting. They've decided to file a human rights complaint directly with the United Nations.
Ça va?
This is a big agency, Ian, over 14,000 staff. They had wide-ranging responsibilities. But because there's no oversight, we don't know how many of the complaints filed against those staff were determined to be founded or not, or what action was taken. The public only typically finds out when criminal charges are laid, and that has happened.
And so let's talk more about this lack of civilian oversight.
Well, the federal government initially started down the road of introducing legislation, then it abandoned it. And the government says it's trying to make sure that whatever system CBSA gets doesn't result in overlap or duplication of process. Now, Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodale would not agree to an interview, but his office says he is still committed to bringing in oversight. But consider what that means. Drafting legislation, getting it through committee, getting it passed, getting it royal assent, all of that before the House rises for the election campaign, which is going to be very tight timing in.
Thanks, Diana.
Thank you.